This is really rare for me because usually when I'm giving lessons, I like to be the one teaching gambits and
Mhm,
showing how to play dubiously and then
mhm.
try and win quickly. And that's not to say maybe I can show you some of the cooler Stafford lines if you ever have inspiration to start playing gambits yourself, like Stafford or
Okay.
otherwise. Because it's a great opening to play against like really unprepared players.
Wait, what's your favorite gambit, like, of all
Stafford by
time?
far, yeah,
Stafford by far? Okay, then I
yeah.
picked the right coach. I'm making you counter your own gambit is what I'm trying to do here.
That's true. It's gonna be difficult for me. I've never had a lesson like this where I show someone how to play against a Stafford, but the thing is I've played hundreds, if not thousands of games in Stafford, so I'll be able to give you maybe a few different options
Okay.
and show what gives me the most problems.
Mhm.
Because there's certain players I just don't play Stafford against because I know they're gonna be prepared and punish
Of
me
course.
to the full extent.
Of course, yeah. That would totally makes sense. I mean, it's Staffords and stuff like that, and gambits in general, it should not like, if you already know you're gonna play against somebody, then, like, if it's a match format or anything like that, you're just not gonna go for it, right? So that makes total sense. Yes.
Yeah, it always depends on the opponent though. Like some
Mhm.
players you'll see like they don't have much experience or they might play the line that's suboptimal. Um, I think
That's
when we
every
played
single
our
opening. I play I get
well,
it.
when we played our previous matches, like I saw you go into this line where like it looks
Hide your
solid,
kids, hide your wife. Eric out here
but
refuting his own opening tonight.
after I think you probably remember going into this,
Mhm.
right?
I do, but
And
it
then
ends up being a big mess.
yeah, it's actually one
Yeah.
of, like, the cooler traps of the Stafford where I think,
Mhm, queen
at least
e5,
once
then
this
queen
happened, and
takes. Yep.
it's not something you wanna repeat again or even allow
Mhm.
knight takes h2.
I've learned that
Yeah.
this H3 move at some point is very
Ooh.
important.
So, one of the things with white playing against the Stafford is move
Mhm.
order. Move order is sometimes
Right.
the trickiest thing because if you play, like, one thing out of order, it can allow black, like, so much fun.
Mhm.
And I guess we can start with like a general repertoire. Like you're in general against a Petrov, you're taking on e5 from what I can see.
Yeah.
Like you don't usually play knight c3. Because there's other moves that exist here. Like there's pawn d4, which is another
Mhm.
like very stable way of playing against a Petrov. And it
Mhm.
actually completely avoids the Stafford too. Like if you just wanted to avoid Stafford completely, you could play d4 and
Oh,
enjoy life.
I had no idea. I do like to
Mhm.
play the regular Petrov. I always play with like knight takes e5 and after d6 I play knight to c4.
I
I
saw
play
that.
that.
Yeah, I was looking up your
Yeah.
games, like, right before we hopped on call.
Oh.
I saw you have a bunch of games in this line, which
Mhm.
I know is topical, like, during World Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of
Um,
preparation there, but
but yeah, so when you encounter knight c6, then this is the start of Stafford, and,
okay.
you should be taking on c6.
Mhm.
Some people decline it, which just gives black a slightly preferable position. Um, There's a move that I've been enjoying playing recently, and I'll show this to you just if you wanna play it for content in the future. Have you
For
heard of the
content.
have
Whew.
you heard of the Halloween Gambit?
I have actually, yes.
So Halloween Gambit usually comes from a 4 knights,
Mhm.
where
And then after knight c6, knight takes e5, knight takes and d4.
exactly, takes in
Right.
d4 and white sacks a piece for the big pawn center.
Mhm.
Um, the thing is when you go into Stafford, if you really wanted to be the gambiteer, you could transpose into Halloween by playing knight c3.
Uh,
I'm not gonna give this to you as my main
um,
recommendation, I'm just gonna say it's
okay.
possible. And if you just
Okay.
wanna have fun and be the one gammoning and especially around the season of Halloween, it's a festive opening.
Yeah, it's a festive opening. Okay, for content, we might try this opening on stream at some point. Yes.
Okay. But
Only
yeah,
for content
if you
though.
wanna, like, be objectively
Mhm.
proper
Yeah.
and play the best move, take on c6.
Mhm.
Everyone takes
Okay.
back with d pawn. And this is kind of the key starting position in Stafford. And when like preparing for this call, I was conflicted because there's actually a lot of like refutations to the Stafford,
Mhm.
and it's just a matter of choosing one and knowing it
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Um,
So I like D3 and
so D3.
H3 currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know
D3.
if you have any other recommendations or if you think that something's better, something might be better or
Let's see what you're playing currently, and then maybe we'll adjust. We'll try and fine tune.
okay.
So I'll play Bishop C5.
I will play H3.
I'll take on F2.
Oh. Oh dear.
Oh
Uh
yes. So
Oh
this is like one of the reasons I really like Stafford is because stuff like this. You're trying to play really safe, and already like you're walking into really messy line. White's still okay here. If you play King G1, Black can just force a draw.
I think I
Um,
lost like this against you at some point in the match. I'm
it's
pretty sure.
possible. Yeah, even
Mhm.
like GMs will walk into this. A lot
Oh
of
my
people will play
god.
King F3, and then there's a funny line, castling King takes E4. You don't really want to go into this as white, even though white's up 2 pieces. King on
My king
E4.
is on a bit of a trip.
Yeah, it's fun when this happens though, and another reason why I'm not kind of giving up this opening is
Mhm.
significant number of players will walk into this.
Okay.
Um, if there's a similar line where white can try C3,
Mm.
I think it's good we're going through like the move orders which don't quite work for white, just so you have the understanding of like what black's
Absolutely.
tactical ideas are.
Yeah.
C3 is an attempt to just take over the center, which is generally what you want to do against Stafford. Like you have the 2 center pawns.
Mhm.
This gets messy after knight takes E4 because you can't take back, which will allow bishop takes F2, and you're losing a queen. King E2, there's bishop G4,
Tactics.
and this is still objectively good for white. I don't recommend going into it because there's some compensation for black. But
Mhm.
after this, takes here, F5. Uh, yeah, if you know it really well, you'll be okay as white, but
Mhm.
probably best to avoid.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Can't do that.
so you don't want to play H3, you don't want to play C3. Black is threatening knight G4 here,
Uh-huh.
which is probably why like a lot of times you are liking to play bishop E3, but that also gives black a lot of
Yeah.
initiative. So the move
Discovered
to
that one for
play,
sure.
yeah, yeah. So the move to play is bishop E2.
Okay.
This way you just prevent the knight from coming in.
Mhm.
Actually, I shouldn't say prevent because knight G4 is actually still a playable move, which we can
Oh
get
my
to.
god. Because you take this queen H4, I'm guessing?
So if takes queen H4, yeah. Um,
Oh
Good news
no.
is it's still completely okay for white.
Uh-huh.
Um, and there's actually a really thorough video on YouTube by Nerditsky where he
Oh.
covers this recommendation. He actually spends a good deal of time covering this line for white and just showing how to like neutralize all the threats.
Mhm.
The main thing to know is don't get mated. So
Don't
defend your
get
F
made it,
pawn.
thanks. Yep.
And then put your queen on G3.
Got it.
If you
Okay.
know just up until this point, you'll enjoy life a lot more, even compared to what you have been playing already. Nerditsky has like way more analysis from this position, which we
Mhm.
could get into. But it's probably just worth watching that video. And
Sure. Yeah. Also keeping it simple enough so quick chat can understand because,
yeah, I'm trying to give you like
they
the
Mhm.
most like digestible lines that won't be too difficult to forget.
Yeah, I
And
do appreciate it. Yep.
yeah, and the thing with this line is most players don't play knight G4. Most
Mhm.
players actually play H5.
Oh,
So knight
okay.
G4 is more of like a sideline you won't encounter too often, but as long as you just remember take, get your queen to G3, you'll be fine.
Okay. I can remember that.
Awesome. So let's say h5.
Right.
And now, again, black is preparing to play knight g4. And this is where move order is, again, pretty important. What would be your first kind of impression here? Like what to play for white?
Don't play h3, probably.
Ooh.
I feel like playing h3 in these positions always ends up being something a little bit bad. I'm always a little bit scared of playing stuff like h3 here.
H3 is like a very safe looking move.
Yeah.
But you do. I'll say h3 is completely fine. Like objectively, it's
Okay.
still much better for white. The reason why I wouldn't recommend h3 as like your main white repertoire is because things get a little bit messy after queen d4,
Oh.
where the pawn is attacked. You want to play bishop e3, but b2 is then also hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you castle, there's this move queen d6 to threaten knight g4, and you really have to be accurate. And I don't think it's worth trying to memorize like many more moves of the computer refutation, because there is like I think more simple line to go for.
Mm-hmm. I get that. Yeah.
But this is just part of my preparation. Like if anyone plays h3, I'm happy to go into queen d4, queen d6, and it's very effective in blitz and bullet because a lot of white players are just not prepared. So instead of h3, this is where you can play c3.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing d4. And this is again what Nerditsky like shows in his video. d4 allows you to just expand with tempo in the center.
Uh-huh.
And there's not too many great ways for black to deal with the threat.
Okay.
The main move is knight g4 here, and I think this is the one we should focus on.
Okay. That looks very scary, so I agree.
Uh-huh. There's another move, bishop b6, which I used to play myself.
Well, this move is to like just prevent d4 from being a direct threat, right?
Yeah,
So you
this
can't
is less
cross off the
threatening, but
bishop.
it's more prophylactic.
Yeah. But this doesn't look that difficult to deal with. Like, what if I just developed like knight to d2 or
Yeah, knight
something like
d2.
that?
I'll admit, I actually don't know like the absolute precise move, but knight d2 looks
Mhm.
completely fine. If we turn on the engine here, I'm sure it's going to give like +2 for
Mhm.
white,
Oh
at
wow.
least.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives almost +3 actually, plus
Whoa.
2.5, 2.7. And
That's kind of
I guess
high.
the thing to understand is if black ever goes for knight g4 to target f2, then there's first of all, the reason why you played knight d2 is to reinforce e4.
Mhm. Yeah, of
And you
course.
can just respond to knight g4 with d4. Just block
Yep.
the bishop.
Yep. Got it.
So yeah, and it looks
Mhm.
like most of the engine lines, like if bishop e6, top engine move, then you can play d4 and you're going to have a happy, stable center. Nothing
Mhm.
too wrong.
And happy stable life.
Exactly.
Yep.
So black is going to try and make you unhappy and unstable with a move knight g4.
Okay. And if I play anything like d4 now, I'm guessing it's well, if I play d4 now, isn't that totally all right? Because there's
Yeah,
no
so
like
this is where
king
things
f6
begin
or
to get interesting. And
okay.
there's a lot of like the Stafford Gambit is kind of like an onion. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of layers to keep peeling away. And sometimes it'll make you cry, but that's part of the learning process.
That's an amazing line. The Stafford Gambit's a bit like an onion. Sometimes it'll make you cry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's but sometimes like if you cook it right, it will taste really good. So
Okay.
anyway, knight g4 used to just not be a known move until there was this YouTube video. It was called something like the Magical Stafford line. It was by Jonathan Schrantz.
Oh.
Where he found a line that was not covered in the Nerditsky refutation video.
Oh God.
And the idea is that after d4, it looks like everything is happy for white. Black can
Uh-huh.
strike with queen h4.
Okay. And I go g3.
And you go g3 and I go queen f6.
Uh, and I go castle. Or is
Oh,
that too
castling is
scary?
interesting. Most people don't castle. They don't. They're
Oh.
not brave enough. I think castling is actually a fine move. It's completely playable.
Love
Mhm.
these Stafford streams.
There are. So it gets into a position where white is objectively much better. Like if you turn on the engine, it
Mhm.
will give almost +4, I think.
Right.
Engine's actually giving +5.
Oh my god, what? Woo!
Now,
Can I
the
just be an engine?
the thing about this position specifically, from a practical standpoint, like if you look
Yeah.
up the games like over the course of like what's been played on chess.com
Uh-huh.
and Chess, black actually scores reasonably well because there's a lot of lines where it's still easy to go wrong for white and things can get very
Absolutely.
messy.
Yep.
And even in this like Jonathan Trantz video, he found a line like he played black against Stockfish and almost
Uh-huh.
managed to get a winning position as black,
That's crazy.
which is crazy given Stockfish just
That's
says it's completely winning for white.
yeah, so it's one of those openings.
Yeah, and one of the main ideas, like critical variations, which I'll just show you, not something you need to remember, it's just to
Mhm.
appreciate the beauty of the line, is if white plays f3, looks like white is just winning piece
Mhm.
easy. Then there's h4. And already, okay, some pressure along the h-file. White can try and just keep all the bases covered, rook g1, but then after takes rook h2. There's so many lines where like things get messy and black's going to get compensation even if black is losing a piece. And there's some like
Okay.
really insane engine line stemming after this. Black has this move. White doesn't want to take because this, and if queen d4, there's like a crazy engine move, bishop c4, which like it creates a situation. Engine will still say white's winning, but if you dig deep,
Mhm.
it's like almost a draw. Um,
Okay.
and this isn't worth getting into, but it just shows that
These positions have a lot of
there's some
counterplay for black.
spiciness.
Yeah.
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 I had this a few months ago actually in Title Tuesday against a strong GM and blitzed out bishop c4, managed
Oh
to
my
win with
god.
like most of the game being opening prep.
Oh my god, that's crazy. I mean, this is the part where chess is such a frustrating game sometimes because if people are playing a Stafford against me, they probably know how to play it. And I'm over here like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please go easy on me.
So again, you just need to put in the work of remembering kind of the key line and acknowledging that these traps exist, but you're not going to fall into the landmines.
Okay, got it. So just play chess, right?
Just play chess, but commit at least the first 10 moves to memory.
Just commit the first 10 moves to memory.
But it's kind of what you
Okay,
need to do
just
against Stafford.
remember all
Yeah.
the key lines. Yep, I agree though. I do fully agree. I know I'm laughing right now, but I'm laughing in part because this is exactly part of the reason why I stopped playing competitive chess.
Ah,
So it's like, huh, now I'm going back into it because I've been getting frustrated with online chess. Like, how do we come
gotcha.
all the way back here? Yeah, no, but
So
it's
yeah, sometimes like at the lower levels you can just play chess and understand principles and stuff. But
uh-huh.
at my level, at like our level,
Yeah.
opening preparation is a much larger factor
Mhm.
because people will be people are just super well prepared these days. There's more tricks and traps which
Mhm.
are easy to, especially when you play the same thing over and over again, you want to make sure your repertoire is robust. So the line that I'll recommend for you, I was actually curious about castling because I think this is actually a very fine line. Like if you wanted to castle, you're
Mhm.
completely fine here.
I
Um,
agree.
Engine will say like +3. It's giving bishop f8 as the top move, which is a very good sign.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a good move at all. I mean, I think part of the reason that this position, like this castling thing, would actually work is because if you ever play h4, then bishop takes g4, so that just shuts down most of black's.
It's hard for black to make progress. Like we've
Yeah.
established this threatening looking knight, but it's hard to actually crack through. And white has a move f3 here. Oops, there's a mouse slip. Pawn f3, kicking away the knight. And yeah, top engine move is knight h6. So yeah, the thing to know here is don't play f3. F3 is still
Yep.
probably a fine move, but it walks
It
into a
just
lot
makes it
of
complicated.
unnecessary complications. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agreed.
The move I was going to initially recommend for you is bishop f4 or bishop f3,
Oh, that
which
seems interesting.
is also
Uh-huh.
like completely playable, just blocking the queen from targeting f2. This bishop's still attacked.
Mhm.
At some point, you're gonna be on your own, and as long as you have some game plan between bishop f3 and castling, it's gonna be hard for black to hurt you.
Mhm.
With all this said, I do have a few traps. Like if you were to play bishop f3, there's still a few ways that like can go wrong.
Mhm.
So I guess I could show you like the main trap I've been trying to pull lately, and sometimes it can work quite effectively, is to blitz out the move bishop e6.
Uh, because if D takes C5.
D takes c5 is then met with, I believe, rook d. Is it rook d8? Yeah, rook d8 first. Natural
Oh,
move is queen e2,
right. And then there will be
and then
bishop
knight
c.
e5.
Oh, knight to e5.
And already black is better.
Oh, yeah. You get hit with the knight d3 next move too.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So that's the
Okay.
thing about this line. Like there's we're unpeeling more layers. We're
Yeah,
gonna try
we're
and avoid
peeling the
crying.
onion. Yeah.
Yes.
This is why I think I'm gonna stick with castle because I think castle is the easiest. You just kind of put your king away and you follow the opening principles and you go on to your life.
I think
Go
that's
on with your
fair.
life.
Yeah. I'll admit I haven't explored this line so thoroughly. So now I
Mhm.
feel incentivized to study this line really deeply and try and find some tricks and traps against white castling.
Oh no! Oh no!
But
I was about to be like, yep, I've solved the Stafford. No more stings from Eric. I can just be done with this for the rest of my life. But
but this is how chess works. Like
uh-huh.
when you castle, you know it's objectively good for white. It's close to objectively winning. If somehow you run into like some tricky prep, you're gonna learn from it.
Uh-huh.
But you should know that okay, the position's much better for white. There's no reason to be too afraid. Unless
Of
maybe
course.
I'm preparing for you very deeply, then I'm gonna try and find some way to
Then he's gonna
attack.
pull Eric is gonna pull out the onion and make you cry. Make you peel away the layers of the onion and then you will cry.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
gonna
Eric will
keep
do to
peeling
you.
away more layers. But
Yeah.
yeah, castling looks fine. I mean, there's not too many openings where you're gonna get like a +2, almost +3 advantage by move
Hmm.
10.
Yeah.
And this isn't too much to remember. I think the trickiest thing is to remember the move order with like when to play
Mhm.
c3, when to play bishop e2. So maybe it's worth reviewing like real quick.
Okay. Knight of 3, knight
Yeah.
of 6. Yeah. Takes. Takes. Wait. There's no knight c3 line here, right? Knight c3 is just bad.
Knight c3 is completely fine.
Oh,
It's
okay.
actually there's a chess.com like premium video course where
Oh,
Peril
wait,
Sheen
this is the one
recommends Knight c3.
Oh, this is the one that I got it confused. I think it was the one with bishop c5 and then I play h3
h3,
here
yeah.
because now you don't get hit with the bishop takes f2, knight takes e4 line. I
Yep.
had these two things
If you
confused.
wanted to play this one, this is also
Oh,
very fine for white.
okay.
This is what Hikaru plays. This is what some other like chess streamers and YouTubers recommend.
Hmm.
The thing with h3 here, there's a new move I discovered recently, g5, that I'll admit I haven't done too much analysis on, but it
Hmm.
leads to craziness.
Yeah, I've played a game like this in Blitz where I just accidentally stumbled upon the perfect combination against the
Oh,
against the yeah, Stafford with knight c3 h3 and then I actually just played d3. I think I got a pretty okay game with it, but he
d3
definitely did play.
solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you don't play bishop e2, because
Okay.
after bishop e2 there is a crazy line queen d4, provoking castling, and then g4, and then if takes there's h5 and black is already preferable.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's worth sticking with the line that we just showed. Of course, this is an alternative, but you should kind of know the difference between knight c3 and d3. With d3, you remain a bit more flexible with how you develop your knight eventually.
Right, right. Okay. That sounds good. Okay, so knight c3 and d3 are both totally acceptable here. Let's stick with d3.
Mhm.
I rather like it. The positions I think were not entirely poor. So here we go c3, right? No, wait. Holy shit.
So this is where, if you forget, you kind of have to rely on like your understanding, figuring things out.
Yeah. c3 makes sense because we want to push d4. So c3.
And this is where I have knight takes e4.
No. And then you have d takes e4 and bishop takes f2 and everything
Yep.
goes downhill. Oh my god, not like
But
this!
like c3
No.
is still like better for white after queen e2, but you don't want to mess with it. So remember, like c3 and h3, they're a bit premature because they allow these tricky
Right.
tactics.
So we just develop, and
Yeah.
then we protect the queen and give ourselves the option of castle. See, this is the part where we actually have to try to like you can memorize moves, or you can also kind of like sometimes understand why you make the move.
Understanding is way more important than memorizing.
Yeah,
Such a
this is
common
like
mistake among like so many, especially
mhm.
beginner players. They just memorize, but they don't understand.
Yeah. No, you need bishop to e2 not to provoke h5. You need bishop e2 in order to defend your queen
Yeah.
and enable yourself to castle so your king can also be safer. And your queen is also protected. It's a two-in-one kind of thing.
The other way to understand this is by asking the very simple question, what's the threat?
Right.
The
What is
threat
the
is
threat?
actually threefold here. We can imagine there's like a three different moves black wants to play.
Hmm.
Black either, of course, wants to play knight g4. This is like the main threat.
Hmm.
But there's also the idea of knight takes e4 and bishop takes f2 with these like tactics with the d file.
Hmm.
So bishop e2 stops everything.
There we go.
And
That's all we
this is sometimes the best reply to like dealing with gambits. You just have to ask yourself, what's the threat? How do I effectively
need.
stop it? So again, we can continue.
Yeah. Now we can play c3.
c3, good. Yeah, you want to play
Yeah.
d4.
Hmm.
So you're preparing to meet knight g4 with
Now we're ready to meet it with d4.
awesome
Yep.
queen h4.
And then we can play g3. And then if queen f6, then I castle.
Cool.
This is the line I will decide to play on.
And
Yep.
let me take on h2. Let's see how you deal with this.
Oh god. Okay. Um I have the evaluation bar on, and the
Uh,
evaluation bar says climbing.
Engine doesn't like this move, but
Humans
sometimes this
probably
is what to
will.
do in Stafford.
I think I'll probably play g4 here.
Love it. Yeah, and you're not letting me have any fun. If I play
Hmm.
this, you'll hurt me even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, knight
Wouldn't
takes
like to
h2 is probably
fight.
just not a good move.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? A lot of people way over. So I always like to emphasize that there's a lot of threats and stuff, and like attacking in chess is very important, but at the same time, just remember if your opponent overreaches and oversteps and gives you too much material, as long as you don't get checkmated, you'll probably win.
Yep. Yeah, that's a very fair way of putting it. Yeah, it's a lot of people have the strategy they want to go straight for the throat and try and
Mhm,
destroy their opponent as quickly as possible, which I enjoy like myself, but
mhm.
other strategy is just to be chill, take things when things are given to you.
I like how Eric has pretty much the different playing style from his like personality, like totally different. There's Eric, wholesome, sweet streamer,
Oh.
and then his chess style is just like going all in. And meanwhile, mine is more like, let me just wait forever until you make a mistake.
Yeah, I feel like
Or
my chess style has been crafted by Twitch chat. Not sure if it's
oh,
a good thing or
really?
a bad thing, but over the years of streaming, Twitch chat has been more and more incentivizing me to play like aggressively, dubiously, and then It just leads to more entertainment. So I've kind of developed this aggressive style as a
Oh,
streamer.
I see. I never really thought about it that way because have never ever, apart from the fact that I picked up Bullet for Twitch chat, I've never
Rosen
changed my
Stafford
play style for
Rosen Pog
anything. My chess
Rosen
is how I
Smash.
want to play it. So that's really interesting you say that actually.
Yeah, and
Especially for
and
people.
then there's a side that people don't really know about me because I'm not too active in like serious tournament play.
Hmm.
But in classical tournaments, I have a very positional style. I usually avoid complications. I don't play gambits over the board.
Really?
Um, yeah, well, I haven't played too much like the last couple of years, but my
Oh.
style OTB is more reflective, I guess, of my personality. So,
Oh, I see. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I play OTB and Blitz the same way,
mm,
unfortunately, for my OTB. So, well, actually, I don't even play Blitz that much. I just play Bullet. I play Bullet and OTB pretty much the same way, which is also very much not good for either style, but that makes sense.
interesting. Yeah, so and sometimes it helps to go outside your comfort zone. Like if you're a more
Hmm.
positional player, then you can learn a lot by going for more tactical or complicated positions. Even if
Hmm.
you'll lose more, you'll improve overall as a player. So that's like I think for me, one of the areas I need to work on OTB is like going for really complex positions and then working on my calculation skills. So that would be a big step to like making the next jump to whatever rating goals I'm trying for.
What rating goals are you trying for?
That's a good question. I mean, I've only played one event in the last like 2 years, which was Vegas recently. But
Oh, right.
my
Is there
FIDE
gonna be
rating, yeah.
another one in December? The
There's a
national, not.
North American Open in December. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out my tournament schedule, but
Mhm.
it would be nice to get back to my FIDE peak. Like I hit 24-25 FIDE
Mhm.
back in 2015.
Right.
My current FIDE rating is 2350 something, so like
Okay.
70 or so points off my peak.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I peaked a long time ago and I haven't
Mhm.
really climbed back or bothered to climb back as Twitch chat likes to remind me. So, I feel you there. I mean, tournaments are so hard to play when you already have like a full, streaming career and you also do everything photography as well. So, you
It's
know,
a lot to juggle, yeah. I mean, it helps to just enjoy, like if you're gonna play a tournament, just enjoy things as much as possible.
yeah.
And also the fact, I guess for both of us that we're more focused on streaming and content creation these days. I think in some way that can help take the pressure off tournament play and maybe allow us to just play better given that there's no.
No, no, I thought it would be easier to play the World Cup because I'm like,
Ah,
I'm here for content. I'm here to like, just have a good time. And I was like, man,
well,
chess. Yeah.
it is,
It's
yeah.
like I lost. That is not fun. I really thought it would be better and then it just wasn't better. So just finding balance is pretty hard for me at least, but maybe you have a much healthier mindset.
Yeah, I just kind of miss playing like serious chess. I mean, it's stressful in the moment, but it can be rewarding like if you play a fun game or
Mhm.
sometimes like playing in competitions, even if I do badly, it forces me to study chess because every tournament I play, I'm like preparing openings for opponents. So
Right.
even if I lose games and lose rating, I'll actually improve my overall play and expand my repertoire. So sometimes it just requires a
That's
different
true.
mindset where you're just trying to play to learn and grow as a player.
That's absolutely true. I mean, it's been such a long time since I did anything like that, and it was really fun to do it for the World Cup. And
Hmm.
I also remember we played like this one London at the World Cup.
Mm.
Well, I mean, not between chat. It wasn't the fact that Eric was playing the female women's World Cup with me. We were playing outside of the actual event,
Yeah, it was yeah, not in
obviously.
the playing room.
Yes, he was not in the playing room, but there was that one London, and I actually wanted to just quickly juggle bounce a few ideas off of you from
Sure,
the London.
definitely. Yeah.
Like, what do you really dislike about the London as white? Like, what do
Oh,
you
as
hate
white.
most? So, I mean,
Ah.
I've seen this bishop f5. I've played this bishop f5 line, which is very symmetric, right? And I personally don't like it. I think Hikaru also played it in today's Shadow Tuesday,
Mhm.
but I personally don't like it because it's so drawish. And I mean, I obviously shouldn't be well, not that I shouldn't be, but I don't like drawish positions that much. I
You want
definitely
something
enjoy
that's more
it. Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah, I want spicy. I like having a little bit of spice in my life.
I mean,
So that's the line, but
I was impressed with your prep, like, in our casual blitz game. I don't think I ever posted that one to YouTube because there was a copyright song playing in the background.
Oh no.
But we had the video. I might post it anyway.
I posted it on mine, for
Okay,
sure.
nice.
Yeah. I have that on mine. I think it was like I show Eric how to play London. But yeah, that was a fun one. I think it went like this. It was probably something a lot like this.
You played, you didn't play C5 so soon. You played Bishop
Oh,
D6, knight
right,
E5.
56. Yeah.
I think you were following your prep for your first round
Mhm.
opponent in World Cup. It was knight D2, C5,
Yeah, it
and
was
then you
this.
played this knight E4 move.
Mhm.
And I played Queen C2, and then you
C
were
takes
very well prepared with CD4, which not too many
Yeah.
players know. And then I ended up blundering like really soon. I think I'm supposed to take on I think I just took back, and then you played F6.
Yep. I remember you played knight takes C6. I took
Yeah,
on F4 and you played knight B4 and I actually had E5 and
and
I
you can
missed
trap my
that.
knight. Yeah, that's what,
Right.
like, I
You had
took
to
so
yeah.
long, and then yeah, I'll have to
You
go
were
back at the
distracting me,
footage.
yes. Yeah, I mean, this was one of those games where it was like it's just like what I mean, obviously, you don't have to play exactly theory. Right? This is another worry. Like when I study theory and when I play theory, my opponent might not know that he's supposed to play theory too, and then he strays off of the,
Yep.
the beaten course, and I'm like, what the, my dude, help,
So this
help
is
me here.
why understanding is just
Hmm.
more important than memorizing lines. Because if you
This is so
understand like
true.
ideas and the opponent deviates, then you'll still have some grasp of what the relevant ideas are in the position. And it's part of chess. At every chess game, there's going to be some point where you leave your comfort zone or leave opening
Hmm.
theory, and you'll be on your own. And you just have to prepare yourself for those situations.
Yeah. I mean, this is the part where I think after I played some other games using this line, and I think Castle was probably one of the other things I was looking at where I just don't have this option of C takes D4. Um, and it just gets, and then I
Oh,
usually play something like
castling.
B6. Yeah, instead of Queen C2.
Um, Yeah, this is where, like, I guess the engine will suggest. I mean, I assume F6 is a idea. Oh, but
That's
castling
true.
is.
Well, F6, knight takes C6, bishop takes F4, E takes F4, B takes C6, and then I mean that pawn is just not a worry for white, right? Like
Mhm.
actually surprisingly having the double pawn is not usually that big of a worry for white because you just permanently stop black from pushing up the E5 pawn.
Yeah.
I actually don't really know the London for I've only ever played it as black, so all my
Interesting.
assumptions about white's positional gameplay comes from me playing it as black.
I will also say this is a kind of a new line for me. This like
Hmm.
early 95 move,
Oh,
because
I see.
usually I
Okay.
don't play this move order. Like for the first many years of me playing the London, I play Bishop G3, which is just another line like
Right.
to look into. I guess you have to be prepared as black.
I play the exact well, this is me revealing all my preparation now, but
Okay.
I play the exact same way. I just go castle
Okay.
and
Let's see.
okay. Okay.
Ah, so Queen C7. Yeah, so this is a very trendy line these days.
Mhm.
Idea knight
Yeah.
BD7 and E5, and
Mhm.
um yeah, objectively like black can equalize without too much trouble.
Mhm.
Um I have my own kind of sideline that I play against this, is to go for this E4 move.
Oh, people have been playing this against me. I find it
Mm.
really annoying. I hate it when the center is not closed. I have this
Mm.
like I'm a Spanish player, so I always like it if my center is like perfectly
Like
locked
the
and
more
nobody.
closed center. Interesting.
Yeah, I like those positions a lot. Here, I actually have no idea what to do. I have zero clue.
Yeah, don't play knight C6. This is one of the main traps. After knight B3, you're losing material.
Oh shoot. Yeah,
So
that
I'll
doesn't look
save
good.
you
So
from
knight
future trauma.
knight
Knight
D7?
D7, I think rook E8. I'll admit it's like I don't remember so much specific preparation, but um as far as I recall, there's some idea to play E5, maybe right
Uh-huh.
away.
D takes E4, I'm guessing. It's probably my only option here.
Yeah. And then in this position, I like to take with the bishop. Knight takes E4 might be
Okay.
slightly better. There's the idea if takes we fork.
We fork. I like this.
Because
This is
sometimes people pre-move
yeah.
knight takes e4 as black in this position,
Oh god, I
expecting
see.
knight
Okay.
e4, but
Mhm. Do you like train openings? Well, I mean, actually, I guess you don't have to tell me this because
I,
it's
I'm
gonna be.
I'm I'm happy to share secrets. Like
Oh, okay,
I'm
okay.
not super serious and like trying to get to next level and keep everything hidden. So
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. I mean, I usually am never like that. It's just I'm very well aware that, you're playing tournaments and stuff, and usually when I play tournaments, I hop onto like 5 different alt accounts and I never
Mm,
play any games on stream and yeah, anyways, I get super serious about it. So I just don't know how serious you are. So I don't want to like ask you for opening stuff and it turns
yeah.
out to be something you actually end up playing. So I just want to check in
So
with you on that.
yeah, my
Yeah.
philosophy is that if I've share like my own prep out there, people might prepare against it, but it'll motivate me
Mhm.
to prepare even deeper against other people's prep. So it allows me to learn more. And um,
Oh.
the other thing is that I play a bunch of different stuff. Like I can play
Uh,
London, I can play e4, I can play c4. So people kind of have to look at a lot of lines if they want to prepare against me, really for either
yeah,
color. So yeah,
that's
feel
totally
free.
fair.
Like I'm happy to
Okay.
share secrets.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean the London is really interesting because I play this line, but I actually have been running to this line. Now that we actually talk about it, because I have this issue where when you play an opening on stream during Blitz or whatever, Bullet, right? You just forget the opening like
Mhm.
instantly, and then you're like the next time you see it, like, oh, I had to look at this line,
Yeah.
and then you keep doing that, and I keep never ever ever looking at any of the openings. So, like, I remember now I have a lot of issues in London, like specifically this one, for example, which is just very annoying. I just don't know what to do here. Apparently, the engine says bishop takes g3, but I don't see a plan after that.
Yeah, you kind of have to complete development. I mean, it might be worth like if you're not enjoying these positions because the center is opening up and this bishop. I mean, it's subjectively fine. You just have to
Hmm.
maybe expand on the ideas further. Like if you're getting these structures to learn it even deeper. But I mean, there's so many things you can play against London, especially if you're playing a move order. Like from this move order, there's so many different ways Black can fight the London.
Hmm.
I think you briefly asked me like what I dislike the most about playing the
Right.
London, and one of the more annoying lines is pawn c5,
Oh, really? Okay.
where I'll play e3, knight c6,
Uh-huh.
and now, of course, okay, if you're playing black here, you're gonna have to learn like a few of the tricky deviations.
Hmm.
The trendy move these days is knight b d2.
Okay.
But against a lot of like if you play online against a lot of players, people will play c3, and this is already preferable for black after queen
Oh, with the
b6.
queen b6. Okay.
You're maybe
This is
familiar with this line.
I am very familiar with this from Trompovsky.
Ah, okay.
He
Yeah,
used
similar
this in queen
idea.
b6. Yeah, okay.
Idea queen b3, c4. If takes, it's good structure for black. If queen
Hmm.
c2, you have bishop f5.
Right, this bishop f5 move is very interesting. I
Yeah,
like it.
and yeah, of course the queen can't take because we win
Hmm.
material. And if queen c1, you can choose between e6 or the move I like is knight h5, and you get the bishop pair, just better position for black.
Hmm. Absolutely. This is one of those lines that, so the thing that chat, trendy equals good. Trendy typically means not just good, it means that it's like topical as of this moment. So there's like trends in chess. Like if Carlsen will play one line at some point, then everybody will want to play that line. Or if like, somebody like Kasparov, or not, well, Kasparov not so much now, but a lot of the top grandmasters, they play a new line like Geary or something. Everybody will want to play that one line. So,
Yep, and it's usually the top like super GM setting the trends for the rest of us, like mere mortals.
mhm, yeah.
But yeah, like recently at very high level, this London Knight BD2 has been like very trendy, especially in like Rapid and Blitz. And if you want to really try and just out prepare white in the London, it requires a ton of like study and knowledge, and it might not be the most
Worth
like practical approach for
it.
you. But
Yeah.
at like a very high level, queen b6 is one of the most testing lines against London, even
Most
here.
tested lines. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to just play like my e6, bishop d6 stuff
Mhm.
and just keep playing that, if I want to actually like fully commit to play like queen b6 or something like that, because then it's a lot of theory, right? And all of that. But it looks fun to test out. Mhm.
Yeah, if you play queen b6, you're basically asking for a theoretical battle. Difference here is, okay, white doesn't have queen b3, but there's dc5, and it gets into like this really messy gambit type position, which it's good to be aware of, but it's the type of thing like, okay, if you're like a super pro player, it's worth like putting in the hours. But
Mhm.
if you want a more simple line here, there are different lines to choose from. Very popular these days is just to take on d4,
Mhm.
relieve the tension, and then put your bishop on f5 or g4.
Mhm.
And bishop f5 is very standard. And then you can get kind of a very solid like reverse no, reverse like Queen's Gambit exchange is the so-called Carlsbad structure.
Oh yes, the e6, e3 structures.
Yep. Yeah, and
Yeah.
most times white does play c3, you play e6, and you're ready to play bishop d6. And especially if you're playing a lot of blitz and bullet online,
Mhm.
this I think is like a bit easier to internalize, and there's less trickiness white can try.
Yeah, I like this because I think today I was looking at a game that Hikaru would play with like bishop f5 out, but when they took on d4, it was with the pawn on e3 instead of, so it would be like this pawn structure, but f3, e3, and d4, which is so much more symmetrical than this Carlsbad structure, right? Like it's just unplayable for a win or anything like that. So I definitely like it when the pawn structures are not symmetrical,
Oh yeah,
because
for
that just
sure.
means that there's more gameplay.
And if you're playing this line against like a lower rated player who's trying to just be solid against you and maybe play for a draw or just play to get a drier position, yeah, there's a lot of dynamic things that can happen. Of course, even if you trade bishops, once you complete development, you have the minority attack potential. You have
Mhm.
just very nice piece harmony. There's also a potential gambit line here. If white plays one of the main moves, queen b3, you can gambit the b7 pawn with bishop d6.
Gambit it? Okay.
This is a line I'd probably recommend just knowing, and if you just know the basics, you can get like interesting positions as takes, and king f8.
Mhm.
And you've lost a pawn, but you have the bishop pair. White's queen is a bit deep in black's territory. The king is still in the center. There's some cool ideas with the kingside pawn storm. I took some time like just studying this as black and played this in a few blitz games. So this is if you wanted to like peel another layer and
Right.
uh and expand upon, okay, like here's my solid setup, but if you want to learn something more specific, you can kind of learn deeper into this gambit line and
Got it.
maybe out prepare even strong players.
You definitely like the Gambit lines. I respect that.
So this is a way so there's when we say gambit, there's different kind of tiers of gambits.
Of course.
There's
Yeah.
really like dubious gambits, which are actually like maybe not so good, but still super
Like the
trappy, like
Stafford,
Stafford.
yeah.
But then
Uh-huh.
there's also just variations where you sack a pawn and you get a different type of advantage and you get adequate compensation basically. So here, this is computer approved.
Mhm.
Like if you
I
turn
like
on
computer
engine, it will
approved. Yep.
initially prefer white.
Mhm.
But then if you start digging deeper and maybe use an engine with more depth, uh,
Mhm.
and also like look at the not only rely on the engine, but like look at the databases, you'll see that black scores pretty well here.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the compensation appeal of this position. I am just very, very bad at gambiting. I am extremely awful at like being okay with losing material in exchange for something or the potential to get
Mm,
it back later. It's just a very like it's just like a personal kind of thing. It's really got nothing to do with the actual position. This is totally fine. I can see that
gotcha.
fully.
And yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you just want to choose openings that more align with your style. Like if you
Hmm.
want to just not go into gambit sharp positions where you're down material and have to prove compensation, like here, Queen C8 is a completely acceptable move. It's actually, I
Hmm.
think, the main line, even though Bishop D6 is more trendy recently. But
Yeah.
yeah, here you just
Queen
defend.
CA just defend, right? Yeah. Man. so many options in chess. And so many people, and then you always have to make this little gamble, like, does my opponent know it all, or do I know more than my opponent?
Yeah,
So,
eventually, like, as long as you're not blundering anything too severe, you and your opponent will be on your own, and then you don't have to worry about, like, super deep preparation, but I know
right.
it's scary when the opponent is, like, very deeply prepared and, in
Mhm.
sharp lines, but in a quieter position, it's more about what will unfold in the middle game and end game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of these things, guys, we're only going to like move 8 or 10. Usually these lines go on, like, well, not lines, but we usually get the ideas all the way until like move 20. And sometimes not even reaching move 20 is enough. You have to know all the middle game plans as well for after move 20. So you basically have the first 30 moves of the game more or less like structured out. At least that's how I used to do. Well, that's how I did
Yeah.
my World Cup.
It
So
depends on the opening. Like, if
that's
you're
true.
playing, like,
Mhm.
Najdorf, Grunfeld, or, like, mainline
Oh God.
Sicilians, it
That's
can
like move
get
40.
yeah, that's why, like, I've enjoyed playing offbeat lines
Mhm.
where I can pretty much guarantee my opponent won't be super well prepared, and I can be more prepared. Even if it's maybe objectively worse, it still, like, has the surprise value.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely think that, like, what are some of the surprise openings you use for your over the board games? Like, do you just play like, do you like kind of default to like normal-ish kind of stuff, or do you still prepare like specific lines? Like, but by this I mean, for example, for the World Cup, I prepared E4, C5. I'm white. I always play the open Sicilian, but for
mm,
this one game, I prepared the closed Sicilian because based on what
uh,
she plays. So I mean more like that.
I love playing knight c3 because there's a lot of, like, move order tricks, for white where, like, you can start with closed Sicilian and then transpose
Hmm.
into open Sicilian. Yeah, I'm trying to think back, like, my most recent tournament in Vegas where I prepared for every opponent before I play them. Usually, I'll find my opponent's online account, scour
Oh,
through their online repertoire or their, like, tournament repertoire if they have games in the database, and then most of my preparation is specific to whatever opponent I'm playing.
yeah, that makes sense. That's
So,
exactly how I do it, right?
I can
Hmm.
give you an example, like, I played, Rochelle Wu in Vegas, and I don't know if you know Rochelle Wu, one of the top, like, young players in the
Mm,
US.
okay, I'm not sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
she's, like, rated 2,300, but type of player who has, like, a very consistent repertoire, like, plays Najdorf as
Hmm.
black, like, loyal Sicilian player. So there's a line I prepared, after pawn d6 is to play pawn d4.
Got it.
And this is another, like, trendy thing among, like, super GM level, like, theories still developing. But
Hmm.
to get a position after takes, I don't think she played knight c6, but the overall point is to put the queen back on d2 and then go for the fianchetto and just get a
Oh,
structure that black is not used to playing against.
you know
Um,
what? I'm gonna steal this one. I'm gonna steal it.
it's a
I like
nice
this
one.
one.
And it's something, like,
Yeah.
you don't have to play every time, but you can play
Uh-huh.
against the right player to try and throw them off.
It's very similar to the one I play against knight to c6, where after bishop b5. I don't know if you played this one.
Oh, so this one yeah, I went through a phase. Actually, more
Okay.
recently, I've been looking at knight f3. I also used to
Oh.
play bishop c4.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've never played bishop c4. This, I mean, I very specifically prepared this for the World Cup, so I only bothered learning
Nice.
this one line and was like, this is the only thing I'm gonna play.
Mhm.
But it's really interesting because at some point black goes like g6, right? And then there's this really interesting idea of rook b1 and b4 ideas, or b3 and then
Mm.
bishop b2. So you also go for fianchetto. So, anyways, that's why this one reminded me a lot of that, because it's like a fianchetto, but in a totally different position. So,
Yeah, it's, like, one way to kinda stray away from theory. I think Carlsen is the one who innovated this B3 line, and it got really hot for a while.
yeah, it's apparently trendy right now, which means everybody's gonna know how to play against it.
Yeah, but even if, like, opponents are, like, even expecting it, you can still get a playable position with, like, very rich in ideas that can still
Mhm.
align with your style.
Of course, yeah. I fully agree with that. I mean, I just like, well, I definitely prefer it if we can avoid the whole opening theory match thingy.
Mm.
But
So
if we
you'd
really
prefer
can't,
more like going to 960, uh, you just avoid theory
yeah,
entirely.
I usually lose in a theory battle with people just because I don't spend as much time as they do. So I definitely want to just play middle games, but I am also very consciously aware that hey, that's just not where chess is right now. Like, it's not like how I could play it 10 years ago, for example, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, you can still try and find like kind of pat lines where you don't need to know too
mhm,
much theory that might be a bit more offbeat that
mhm,
can allow you to just know less and focus on just
yeah,
playing chess. Can also help to maybe broaden your repertoire to have a few things to choose between, which is yeah, like one of the main ways I surprise people is just like choosing between e4, d4, c4, even sometimes knight f3, and
if you play them all, they will be confused.
yeah, like
Kind of,
sometimes
yeah.
if someone, let's say they play the Nimzo Indian, which
Mhm.
is like classically e6 bishop b4 against knight c3, then I'll play an English move order where if they play knight f6 and e6, I don't have to play d4, but I can play e4. And this is a
Mhm.
completely different opening. This is called the floor
I
mechanis.
see. I see. Okay, so you're just being okay. Well, I mean, that just means your knowledge, like your base knowledge of openings is just so wide because you're able to like conveniently transpose between all of these things. Meanwhile, I just play like the Spanish or the
Mhm.
Sicilian. Those are like my two openings.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean for me I've put in like a lot of time just like and I've gone through different phases of like only playing English,
Mhm.
only playing London. But even if you're like let's say a hardcore Spanish player, you can
Mhm.
still maybe deviate within the Spanish.
Okay.
Uh like as white if you're playing let's say this bishop e7 or playing against this bishop e7. I assume you just play main line, right?
I just play main lines, yeah. Everything's at Berlin. I refuse to play Berlin. So if they play the Berlin, I just go
Ah,
D3.
okay.
Yeah.
That's a respectful approach.
Mhm.
Um, so here, I'm trying to remember Spanish mainline. Do you play C3 here?
I play H3 to count. Well, counter is the
Ah,
wrong word, but avoid the marshal is more
gotcha.
accurate. Yes.
So I can give you just a surprise opening. Let's say I'm preparing for someone that
Uh-huh.
plays a marshal as black and enters his
Okay.
position. The move I like to play is D4.
Oh.
And it's
So
just
you
kind of an
marshal
offbeat
before
move.
they marshal.
Yeah, I beat them to the chase.
Yes.
And then there's some cool lines like some players will play knight takes d4, hoping that
Mhm.
after the trade, black is winning a piece.
Oh,
However, we don't go into this because this is terrible for
right.
white.
Yeah, of course we're losing that.
Instead, after knight takes d4, there's crazy move bishop takes f7,
Oh, oh,
and
wow.
then knight takes e5 is coming, like Rakir takes, and it's easy for black to like stumble into some potential traps if they're not prepared.
I want to play this so bad. I am
Uh,
so ready to play this line now.
So
Okay.
this is just a small bit of inspiration, but this is usually how I pick up openings. Like I'll see a line like this.
Uh-huh.
Like the first time I discovered this line, I had the black side of this position.
Oh, I
It was just
see.
an online game, and I played knight e6. My opponent took, played e5. Here I lost my rook, and
Oh
then
no.
I was inspired to play it for white.
I
Um,
respect that.
yeah,
So you're using the things that you got stabbed with now
exactly.
to stab other people. Understood. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool to like see what weapons people have and then kind of use them for yourself.
Mhm. Makes sense, makes sense.
Then there's another kind of cool line if like the main move here is d6. I should note if pawn
Uh-huh.
takes pawn, you have this move.
Right,
90,
right. Taking that
98
knife.
c3.
Yeah.
It's a gambit style position, but
Mhm.
you control a lot of space. And
Mhm.
main line is
Makes sense.
d6, and then you can play c3. And this goes into like it's called the Yates variation of the Spanish, where you didn't play h3, so you're allowing bishop g4, but then bishop
Mm,
e3. It leads to like some dynamic lines.
yeah, I've
Black
never
can't take the
played the
pawn
Yates
because this.
variation as white actually, but
Ah,
Yeah, this would be something I could definitely play in Blitz and maybe incorporate as a surprise line in Spanish because I've been playing for 18 years. I'm always
Mhm.
looking for new lines to play in Spanish as both black and white.
Definitely, and then that'll kind of expand your
Mhm.
appreciation for the opening, and it'll make you more difficult to prepare against too if, let's say, you're capable of playing mainline or Yates
Mhm.
variation or maybe some other sidelines.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. I mean, this is a great, great little piece of knowledge to have. Man, your knowledge of openings is just really fun to poke at. I'm sorry. I'm just very amused. Like it's just great. I
oh, thank you.
have
I love
hardly
discussions like this. Yeah.
really. That's awesome. I've never. I don't know. Did you have? Well, I guess you kind of live in like a chess environment, but did you like have people to like discuss openings and stuff with when you were
When I was a
playing
younger
tournaments?
person. Yeah, well,
Younger person.
I attended Webster University for a couple years,
Oh, I
and then before
see.
that, another college where I was always
Mhm.
kind of part of a college chess team. So my 2 years at Webster, like, my coach was Susan Polgar. I was
Uh-huh.
training with a bunch of GMs, including Ray Robson, Chessweeb,
Mm.
Shimanov, Laclede
Yeah,
Ave. So a lot of people just bouncing off ideas, and you just pick up a lot of ideas from studying with a team.
of course. I'm very well, I won't say I'm jealous because I definitely don't want to do that currently. I'm
Mhm.
already very much over like well with chess, but I think it would have been amazing if I had something like that when I was a little bit younger, where it's
Sure.
like, yeah, having getting to bounce all these ideas instead of like having a coach tell me what to do would have been so much more beneficial for my creativity in chess because otherwise like, you're it sounds like you've spent a lot of time investing in finding what you actually enjoy. I just kind of got told what to do, and I
I
never really
see.
like.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
helps to, like, have some, like, spark of passion or motivation where you see,
Mhm.
like, a cool trap, and then you just wanna expand further and develop a whole repertoire around a certain line. Like, even like, I'll pick up ideas from various places, like, sometimes just following current games. Actually, the
Mhm.
reason why I picked up this variation specifically, I showed you, like, that first trap, but then there's another trap which happens, let's see if I can remember it. It
In the
happens after
Spanish as
the,
well.
yeah, in this position,
Oh.
takes d5. It's like one of the main lines.
Mhm.
E5 here, and it came. I discovered it by sitting next to Jeffrey Zhang and Andrew Tang at the
Oh.
2015 World or 2015 Philly Open,
Uh-huh.
and Jeffrey played white. He won in like within 20-25 moves.
Mhm.
And he played this really like, it was almost a novelty. There was only like one game in it prior. The novelty came in this position. He played Queen C3, and I was sitting next to the game, and then I think Andrew was thinking for like over 20 minutes. And then after the game, I like looked this up and I saw like, oh, the engine approves it, and Black is under a lot of pressure and it's complicated. And then the following year, I played the same move against Christian Carilla in Vegas.
Oh my
So
god, let's go. I
so it's
like
cool to
this.
like see someone's
Uh-huh.
like rare idea and then use it against someone else
Yeah.
sometime later. So like stuff like this, it keeps a passion. And sometimes when
That's
chess
really
gets boring
cool.
for me, then I'll try and look into more interesting and tricky openings.
I like to hear that. That's really good. So that's kind of like how you keep yourself invested. What would be like a Gambit recommendation for somebody who's incredibly new to Gambits? Like not just
Ooh,
necessarily for me, but for like Twitch chat, like
just
something
a
that's like
average yeah,
yeah,
average Pepe
average
in
Gambit
Twitch.
yeah, average Gambit enjoyer.
Yeah, like what are like the OG gambits? I mean, there's England gambits, which
Oh
is
yes.
I mean, very popular these days among like the sub
Mhm.
1500 players, even higher level too. Um, there is, I'll just try and rattle off a few. There's King's Gambit,
Oh, the Vienna Gambit,
Vienna
right? Okay,
Gambit.
I don't
That's a
know.
more like controlled. Yeah, that's like less risky, and
I
also
have
like
no
reputable.
idea how to play against the Vienna Gambit as black. It is bad.
Do you play E5 as black?
Yeah, I
Oh, I
do.
didn't know that. I think maybe I
Well,
did know that, but
I play E5 and C5, so it's a bit like a coin flip whenever.
So I spent a ton of time researching this as black and just in preparation for
Mhm.
Levy.
Right, because you played a
So
match against Levy recently,
yes.
also in person. Yes, I remember
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
all like we've had our fair share of battles, but D5 is the
Mhm.
go-to move, and then takes. He usually likes to play Queen F3, and then F5 is like the way to deal with this, but still
Okay.
requires some knowledge.
Yeah. All right. So I will take a look at this actually. So knight c3, knight f6, f4, d5.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just scraping the surface, but if
Of
you
course.
know to enter this, it's already like preferable for black.
Yeah, I love how white's best move after f5 is rook b1. That's very funny to
Wait,
me.
engine's giving rook b1?
Yeah, bishop e2, rook b1. On depth only 16, but I'll run it through Leela later.
Ah, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think most games go like d3. There's some mainline takes d4, but yeah, maybe in cases where the b file opens, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Um, yeah, other gambits like there's Danish gambit,
Mhm.
there's Evans gambit. There's a lot of like if you play e4, you can play gambits against most of the defenses from black.
Mhm.
Like if c5 there's Smith Morra gambit or wing
Oh, I
gambit.
hate that one too. Oh, I hate gambits. My biggest fear, my biggest weakness are gambits.
Yeah, against Smith Morra, I mean there's this line that I've enjoyed playing, like it's called the Siberian Trap.
Ah, have you heard of this bishop b4 line?
Oh,
In
bishop
the
b4 too. I've heard
Mhm.
is quite tricky.
Yeah,
Um,
and then there's just like d5 ideas at some point, but I still haven't figured that line out either. All of these are like things that I'm trying to figure out.
yeah, it takes time just to like look into the lines and yeah, you just have to spend some time to know the moves. This is a Siberian Trap, knight g4. If white plays h3, looks very normal, then there's knight d4 winning on the spot.
Mhm.
Nice kind of tactical harmony with the queen and the knights.
Mhm. Those look very good indeed.
But yeah, like with all the gambits, you kind of have to be aware of which ones can be played against your repertoire and then be ready for them. And sometimes if you struggle against a certain gambit, you can play it for the other side and then see how people deal with it.
Mhm. Absolutely. I definitely need to do a little bit of both because otherwise it's just like I don't know what I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
I need to play a little bit of gambits myself to see what's really gonna yeah. Just to see
So
how I can counter them, also like to get myself a little bit more comfortable with them. So many reasons to play a little bit more gambits.
definitely, yeah, and it teaches you just a different style of chess where like one side sacks material, goes for counterplay, things get messy. Yeah, it can make life more spicy.
Mhm.
There's one there is like on the topic of gambits, it's like the coolest opening trap maybe I've ever seen in my life. But it's like a super rare one that I discovered recently.
Mhm.
And I spent most of the day yesterday like pre-recording a YouTube video about this gambit.
Oh.
But it's called the O'Sullivan Gambit.
Oh.
Sullivan. It's starts with d4 or starts with an Alekhine, e5 d4. So most common moves for white. And then from this position, black plays b5.
Oh.
I feel a little bit wrong showing this to you before I'm actually playing it against you. But
It's okay. We already know that we're gonna have another match,
I'm
right?
sharing
And then
secrets.
we'll
Yes.
yes, yes. And also, guys, make sure you're following Eric's YouTube channel for all of these amazing Gambit things, like the B5. I don't know. I've never seen this before.
So the point, okay. I think I'll just show you the really cool trap because it's pretty
Okay.
stunning. Most people take, like just looks like
Hmm.
a free pawn. And then black will play c5. Threatening queen a5. So it's very easy for white to just miss this. Like if knight f3, queen a5, and double attack, and knight c3 we take.
Mm-hmm.
So the cool trap happens after pawn c4. Looks fine for white, hitting the knight.
Mm-hmm.
Surprising move, pawn takes d4. Now, if white takes the knight, we have queen a5 again. So actually, like starting with c4 and going into this position, all of the most played moves for white will be the moves that kind of walk into the eventual trap. So most common move is queen takes d4. Still looks good for white. We play knight b4. Okay, threatening triple fork. It doesn't seem like black should be doing much damage. Like there's only one piece developed, and we've gambited the pawn. Most people play knight a3, just defending. And now
Makes
queen a5.
Uh-huh.
Threatening the discovered triple fork.
Okay.
So as white,
That's
what
a
do you
lot.
do?
Bishop. Oh wait, no. Bishop d2 is. What's wrong? Bishop d2.
So bishop d2, most played move. Yeah, looks safe.
Mm-hmm.
Black to move.
Oh, queen takes a3, knight c2, knight takes d4.
Yeah, queen a3. So when we played queen a5, like this was
Ah.
also a threat.
Ah.
But then it gets better.
So much stuff going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So of course, if takes, we win back the queen, blocks up a piece.
Yep.
So white will play this move. Queen e4, hitting the rook. Our queen's still hanging. We can take on b2.
Yeah.
Now rook b1, hitting the queen, hitting the rook.
Oh, queen takes e5 with knight d3.
Wow, you found that quickly. But very
It's
nice, yeah.
it's a fork. It's a fork.
You've
We are
been doing
looking
your
for the
puzzle
forks
rush.
here. Yeah. We're
Queen
looking for the
e5.
forks.
And yeah, so our queen went from a5 to a3 to b2. Sacrificed itself twice, but it's always like the tactics are always working for black.
And how did you find this one?
This one was, I don't know, I think it was like some random Instagram DM. Like, you know how on Instagram people send you DMs, but they get sent into like the other, like the random folder. But I looked at
Yeah.
it and then I just forgot about it. But I
Wait,
remembered
people
the
send
line.
you openings on Instagram DMs?
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of what people it's not the worst thing
I'm
in the world.
sorry, what? Wait, people slide into your DMs with openings?
I'll get a decent amount of like, oh hey, I found like a cool opening trap. And usually it's just like their opponent blundering on move 5, but sometimes it's actually pretty cool.
Why is that all so wholesome?
Yeah, I mean it's probably like a small percentage of like overall DMs, but
Okay.
it's one of the more wholesome types of DMs. Yeah.
That's amazing. No, I'm glad you have that interaction on Instagram.
Yeah. And then I tried
Mhm.
to do research on like the name, but I couldn't find like who is O'Sullivan, and
Okay.
like there's almost no content about this opening online, and it's such a cool
Mhm.
trap, and there's other traps that exist. Uh so yeah,
But
this
this is
is
like this is your baby now, I guess. Apparently, where whoever O'Sullivan is, I guess. This is now
yeah,
yours.
but now I'm sharing the baby so we can
Yeah.
all enjoy the beauty of the baby together, I guess.